Cuts to Education Department threaten special education services. Recent large-scale cuts to the Federal Department of Education raise serious concerns about the future of special education services. In the U.S., advocates and experts warn that decades of progress ensuring access to education for students with disabilities could be reversed, potentially returning the system to a pre-1970s era where many children were excluded from mainstream schooling. Historical context. How we got here. Before the 1970s, children with disabilities often faced systematic barriers to education. The passage of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, in 1975, along with the Americans with Disabilities Act in the 1990s, dramatically changed this landscape. These laws mandated accommodations and equal access, ensuring that students with disabilities had the right to a free, appropriate public education. Now, with a shrinking Federal Department of Education, this progress is at risk. The current situation: cuts and concerns. The Trump administration's plans to reduce the Department of Education were outlined in the conservative policy document, Project 2025. Despite ongoing legal challenges, the administration has proceeded with significant cuts, citing a desire to empower states to manage education independently. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon insists that funding for special education will continue through IDEA and other programs. However, experts argue that dismantling the Department of Education, the agency responsible for overseeing those programs, effectively undermines them. If there's no one to do the work, then you have gotten rid of them, says Eve Hill, a disability rights lawyer. They're reducing our rights to pieces of paper. Rising demand, shrinking support. The number of students receiving special education services has grown by over 1 million in the last decade, reaching 7.5 million in the 2020-2023 school year, roughly 15% of all public school students. States receive roughly $15 billion in federal funding to support these services, including special education teachers, early intervention programs, and therapists. Advocates fear that the reduced Department of Education workforce will be unable to effectively distribute and oversee this funding. Susan Popkin of the Urban Institute compares this to the patchwork response during previous government shutdowns, where some states stepped up while others failed to provide adequate support. There is also concern that federal funding could be converted into block grants, allowing states to prioritize certain disabilities over others. Consequences: increased complaints, limited resources. The cuts are expected to lead to a surge in complaints from families whose children are denied appropriate accommodations. The Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights, already gutted, will struggle to keep up with the influx. Hill predicts that parents will be forced to rely on expensive private lawyers, further exacerbating inequities. Parents are taking out second mortgages on their homes just to get the rights for the child, says David Bateman, a special education consultant. What can be done? Advocates urge parents to engage with their local and state representatives, collaborate with schools, and join or create special education PTAs to pressure for continued support. Organizations like COPAA and the National Disabilities Rights Network provide resources and legal assistance, though even they face potential funding challenges. The future of special education hinges on collective action. If the federal government continues to dismantle oversight, advocates argue, the onus will fall on local communities to fill the gaps. The alternative is a return to a system where children with disabilities are left behind.